Welcome to our life out in the country. My name is Doug.
And I'm Ashley.
Guys, our trees are infected. Now we've been clearing our field, preparing to make these into livestock pastures, and we've been trying to selectively leave trees that we like, because we want a few trees out in the field for shade, for looks, just for fun. So, some of the trees we left are these cedar trees. And
Eastern red cedars.
And now we thought they were really cool looking, but we noticed that they did have a fungal infection called cedar apple rust. And cedar apple rust is basically this fungal disease that grows on a cedar tree, and it creates this kind of spore. It's a fungus, so it creates a spore pod that releases its spores in the spring. And what it does is those spores go out and they attack apple trees. And then the apple trees get this fungal infection. And that's really bad, because if we wanted to grow apple trees, this is going to limit us, because this is going to create a fungal disease in our apple tree, which means a bad harvest and all kinds of problems.
Unless we can find a certain apple variety that's better resisted against it. Yeah,
there are some that are better, but I don't know if there's any that are 100%. Now, what we did was we went through and we picked off any of the spore pods that we could see during the winter when they were still dormant. But that wasn't good enough, because these things are just spewing these orange blobs, and you can see they are, let me come down here.
They're just everywhere on this whole tree.
They're just leaking out. This is like toxic jungle. They're gelatinous. They're just, I don't even know.
Nasty.
I don't know if they're safe to touch, but whatever. They're, yeah, it's hard to tell, but they're just very squishy, gooey, and those things are what's releasing the spores.
And they come off of the tiniest little, if you can see here, that little orange hard thing there. That's what that came out of. So all it takes is a little tiny pod thing, whatever they come out of, to do all that.
So here's the thing. The tree will keep living and keep spreading spores every year, and it looks like there's very little we can do about it.
Yeah, I had no idea it was going to be this bad, because we thought we got all of the bigger pods off, and I didn't know.
So here's the options. We could cut down the trees and hope for the best. The problem is the neighbors have cedar trees.
Everywhere around here has these trees. They're just everywhere.
So even if we get rid of ours, it doesn't stop the infection.
Yeah, because the spores can travel a long ways.
Up to 3 miles.
So
the other option is just leave it and deal with it, and realistically skip apples. You could say we could look for apple varieties that are, but basically skip apples, and just have this kind of ooey gooey mess on our trees.
It'll be interesting to see how our 2 apple trees do this year at least.
We have 2. We don't know if they're crab apples or if they're good apples, but we're going to see what they produce. So that's our first infection, and now I'm hesitant. Do we keep it? Do we cut them?
Well, we have this tree, and we also have about 5 others of these in the field.
And they're all going to be infected, just like this.
Let's look at this little one over here.
This little one even has some down here.
Yeah. Yep. Not as many, but it still has them throughout.
So here's the Homestead Lesson. If you want apples, check for cedar trees, because they do not play well together.
Yep.
If you have an apple tree and a cedar tree close together, these eastern red cedars or whatever these are, you're going to have problems.
They just pass their spores to each other.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's the other thing. Once the apple tree gets infected, it releases, it does its cycle, it releases spores, and those spores infect the cedar tree.
So it just keeps going.
Back and forth. You need both. Without one or the other, they cannot spread. The spores from a cedar tree cannot infect another cedar tree. They can only infect apple trees. And the spores from an apple tree can only infect cedar trees. It's a very unique system. So if you have this problem, get rid of the cedars or get rid of the apples. You can't have both.
Yeah.
Now, that's not the only infection we have. We have another infection I'll show you now. So we have these trees, and we found a lot of these trees out in our field, and we're keeping some of them, well, we were going to. And these are wild black cherries, I believe. And there's some nice ones. Right there's one. But as you can see, just about all of these cherry trees have caterpillars in them. And I know
tent
that
caterpillars.
it's not a true infection, but it's still a nuisance. I don't know if these are a problem, but they are disruptive to the trees.
Look at what they're doing to the leaves. I mean, they could really decimate a tree.
And we still have to do some research as to the moths. Are they beneficial? I don't know. If you guys know, let us know. Is it worth keeping the trees? It seems that these tent caterpillars prefer the wild black cherry.
Yeah. Well, we know we don't want these cherry trees in the pastures where the animals are going, because we were reading that these leaves can be deadly for them.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We were going to clear them all from the pastures. If you guys didn't know, here's another homestead tip. If the leaves get damaged, if they have a frost, if the branch breaks, if they're wilting, they release a toxin that can kill your animals if eaten.
And it doesn't take that many of them to do it, so.
If they eat them fresh like this, they're fine. But if the leaves are damaged or wilting, they're toxic.
So we're definitely not going to keep any of these in where the animals are going.
We were going to keep some over in our
orchard area.
Yeah, area where we're not having animals. But again, do we want all these caterpillars and disruptive things like that, you know, eating the leaves? I don't know. But clearing this field has been a learning experience. We're finding new trees, new plants, learning about new pests and funguses and insects. And we're just trying to figure out what should stay and what should go. We're going to keep some of the maple trees, because maples, you can't go wrong other than the giant leaves.
It's nice shade.
And we got some unidentified trees. We're still waiting to see what those are.
We have a pussy willow.
That was cool to find, yeah. So we're just learning, but keep an eye out for pests. And yeah, we're just still researching and seeing what's going to work. We don't want to keep anything that's going to disrupt our gardening, disrupt our livestock, or anything like that. So
we have to have safe species.
So I guess that's all we have for today. We just wanted to share what we've been learning and show that disgusting cedar apple rust. Whatever, cedar apple cedar. It's a fungal disease and it's really a nuisance, disappointing. So if you guys have anything you want to add, leave your comments below. Should the trees stay? Should they go? Which ones would you keep? And what would you do with these pests that we're experiencing? We'd love to hear your feedback. Until next time, take care.
Bye.